Call the public hearing to order at this time. First part of our agenda tonight is a public hearing on some third and final readings. So at this time, Mr. Stoltz, we will declare the public meetings open, and you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor declared, this is a open public hearing with respect to annexation ordinance number 2019-09, be it ordained by the Mayor and Council of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof, that the following property owned by James Howard Walthour and known as MAP 0013D050 portion and 0013D051987 Dyer Bridge Road is annexed into the City of Fort Oglethorpe. If anyone would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of the annexation of this property, come forward, please. I'll ask you to sign your name, and you'll have 5 minutes with respect to annexation. Come forward, sir.
Sign in for us.
Yes, sir. No, sir. We have to do them separate. All right. Okay.
How would that impact?
No, sir. We don't vote until later. Now, is this on annexation? This is.
I'll just say something real quick.
All right.
Fine.
If you would speak your full name, sir.
My name is Gary Hammond, and I am speaking here on both on behalf of the annexation for the Wall Tower property and the rezoning, and I'd prefer to speak on the rezoning afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition of the annexation of this property into the city? If you would, sir, sign in and state your full name when you get to the podium.
My name is Steve Abercrombie, and I want to speak in favor of zoning the Oglethorpe property.
Thanks, sir. Is there anyone else who would? The annexation is part of MAP 0013D050 and 13D051 897 Dyer Bridge Road.
I didn't get a letter for the first meeting. I wasn't able to attend the second.
If you would, sir, come up and you can sign in and then state your name to the podium. If you would go to the podium and state your full name, sir, and then you may.
My name's Donald Wallen. I don't know if I'm for or against right now.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of the annexation of this property into the city? Mayor, it appears that no one else is either opposed or in favor of, and that public hearing can be closed.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Next public hearing is for zoning ordinance number 2019-10. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-10, be it ordained by the Mayor and Council of the City of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof, that the following property owned by James Howard Walthour and known as MAP 0013D050 portion and 0013D051 897 Dyer Bridge Road is hereby rezoned to a planned development mixed-use zoning. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning of this property to a PM zoning? Come up, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Great.
Thank you. My name is Gary Hammond. I live in Dunwoody, and I work in Sandy Springs. I've been in business in Georgia for 25 years, specializing in housing the last 15 years. To date, I've developed 31 communities across the southeastern United States, and then about 3,105 units. Those projects have consisted of acquisition renovation, adaptive reuse, new construction. They've targeted families, targeted seniors, and have been single-family product, apartment product, memory care. For all of my rental housing communities, I am a long-term owner, and I am tied to the community for at least 15 years. In my business, I'm only as good as my reputation. I pride myself in honoring my commitments. I don't hide from calls from tenants or government staff or politicians. You'll be able to contact me at home or at work at any time in the future if there are any issues. That is my promise to you, and that's my promise to this community. I've enjoyed working with city staff and submitting this application. They've been very generous and gracious with their time. I also appreciate your time and your dedication to bettering your community. I sincerely respect the process which we're going through tonight, and it's consistent with my business plan and my housing niche, which my mission statement is we partner with local communities to bring quality housing to the residents. You'll see that on the brochure that I handed out to you. And again, our motto is partnering with local communities to provide quality, lasting homes to their residents. I can't do this without you. Sure, it would be easier on everyone if I found a zoned piece of property and tried to fit my product on it, but that's not always possible, and that's not really what this is about. And if I did that, there'd be no public hearing. I'd go and build my apartments, and there wouldn't be any collaboration with you as a city. Plus, even if zoned land were available, it's highly likely that we would select a better piece of property for our site selection that's driving us to a better location, one that's more accessible to jobs, is more visible, better school system, retail services. I'm here tonight to ask for your support for building a community that will target that middle missing housing piece that's so hard to finance, that's so hard to develop across our country, everywhere. Without bogging you down with statistics, your community, just like many others across this country, is struggling to be income inclusive, to meet the needs of your retired, partially retired, soon to retire, wishing to retire, seniors with modern, accessible, maintenance-free apartments. These are hard-working individuals that are reaching retirement age with limited savings and are often forced to stay in the workforce or delay retirement. They provide or have provided valuable products and services to you, to our communities. They educate our kids, they keep us safe, they provide essential government services. They are our teachers, our first responders, our restaurant workers, our retail workers. I have a financing program which is exactly for this purpose. The quality of the housing is comparable to market rate independent living that you would see elsewhere in the bigger towns, etc. But instead of renting for $1,500 a month, which is very typical for new independent living market rate, they'll rent for $675 a month. The community will be professionally managed, and residents will be required to have a source of income to pay their rent. Some will still be in the workforce, while others will be relying on Social Security to pay their rent. Residents will be required to pay their rent and pass criminal, credit, and landlord reference checks. We will offer supportive services geared towards wellness, healthy eating, and financial independence. We'll promote social interaction with planned activities held on site in one of our several congregation spaces. Depending on household size, incomes will range between $8 and $14 per hour, or $1,400 to $2,500 per month. Finally, all units will be handicap accessible. 4 units will be fully equipped for the disabled, and 2 will be equipped for the audio and visually impaired. So many seniors are living paycheck to paycheck and are rent overburdened, often paying 50% or more of their income towards their housing cost, with insufficient savings to afford market rate retirement homes. Imagine the difference it would make if they only paid 30% of their income towards rent or housing costs, which is what our program is for. They would have additional money to spend on essential needs like food, transportation, and health care. In closing, please look at the unique qualities of the property we are asking you to rezone or annex, the community we are asking you to support. Recognize that it has no road frontage or direct access to Battlefield Parkway. It has no commercial potential. By approving our rezoning, you will accomplish goals set forth in your comprehensive plan, promoting a variety of housing types and price points for all ages, and promoting senior housing development. And we'll accomplish all this with an extremely low-density development with minimal impact on the environment and creating 86% green space in perpetuity, which is what our site plan proposes. It's a 72-unit retirement home, 31 bedrooms, 42 two-bedrooms that will sit up on the hill with beautiful views of Fort Oglethorpe. And I think it's very worthy of your respect, and you'd be very proud of it when it's completed. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the rezoning of this parcel to a planned development mixed-use zone? Yes, sir. If you would come up and sign up, please, sir.
Sign it again.
Yes, sir. And state your name, please.
Thank you. My name is Steve Abercrombie, and I know some of you I don't. My wife and I have been licensed realtors in the state of Georgia for 17 years and been in business down here off and on since 1969. To give you just a little idea, we were both multi-million sellers last year, which means we sold $3 million apiece in real estate. I've been involved in development. I was involved with Jim Chapin in Cummings Cove, Battlefield Golf Club subdivision behind there, so I have some knowledge of development, but mainly I'm a realtor. We listed this property 3 years ago and have 2 written offers today. The first offer, Mr. Walthar couldn't get with the developer. It was a development similar to this, although I don't believe it was as superior as this development is. Mr. Hammond's company is one of the finest companies that I've ever run into or dealt with, and I really appreciate his involvement down here. I think that this development would bring a lot to Dyers Bridge Road area. This particular piece of property has no frontage on Battlefield Parkway, has no sewer, and there's 2 homesteads on it. It's got beautiful views, but it's landlocked. So the retail value, I don't believe it's going to be ever developed in retail, to be honest with you. This project would bring sewer up there. It would widen the roads. I believe it would help the church on top of the hill with membership. I just believe it would do a lot for the area. The property across the street is 72 acres on top of the hill. Jack Webb has that listed. He was one of the principal developers of Fieldstone Farms. He's been over there twice. Jim Chapin, who developed Cummings Code, been over there 2 or 3 times, and they both told me that they thought the best idea was to load it up with apartments, and that's not going to fly in Fort Oglethorpe. So what we're trying to do is get something for Mr. Walthor to sell his property. Now I'm going to get into just a couple little numbers with you guys. This contract price on this is $675,000. Pine Lake's less than 3/4 of a mile. That property down there with sewer adjacent sold for $15,000 an acre. And I sent the numbers in here, but at $15,000 an acre on 14.35 acres, that's $215,000. It's got 4,400 square feet of homestead that needs some repair. I put $80 a square foot on that, which is $537,000 to be generous. And then you got to run sewer for either under Battlefield Parkway or from Deeds Road at Battlefield Parkway and trench it. So the $530,000 is generous, which is over a 30% haircut from the price that he's trying to get now. I just would hope, I live here and I'm not on the city council, I'm not into planning and that kind of stuff, but I would hope that you would give this an objective look, because I do think it does a lot for that hill, and I think we've still got 4 acres across the street that could be used retail, and I believe it would help get that going also, and maybe get something going on Dyers Bridge Road. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this zoning to a PM, mixed use? Come up, sir.
Did I sign in?
Yes, sir, you do.
I went through this once 30-some odd years ago.
If you would state your name when you go to the podium.
Do I speak now?
Yes, sir.
Donald K. Wallen. I live in this neighborhood. I'm one of them old men. I've been there 27, 28 years. There is right now a 4-apartment structure that's been there 12, 14 years. Maybe a little longer, maybe a little less. 7 or 8 years ago, one of these low to medium income apartments had other family members move in with the renters that were in it. One day I was asleep on my couch, my wife was gone. I was home alone. Young man walked in my door. Just opened my door and walked in. Never seen him in my life. He said, I woke up, saw him standing there. I said, who the hell are you? He said, oh, I'm sorry. I was looking for my cat. Drugged out of his mind. I need a whole lot more of those. Low to medium income apartments. They always move other people in with them. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning this property to PM? Mayor, it appears no one else is present to speak in favor or opposition of the rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Next item on public hearing is item number 3, zoning, ordinance number 2019-11. Mr. Stoltz.
This is a public hearing with respect to ordinance number 2019-11, zoning, be ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof that the following property owned by Better Built Home and known as MAP 000-20020 Enterprise Drive is hereby rezoned to a C1 special exception zoning. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition of this rezoning of this property to a C1 special exception?
I would like to speak in opposition to that, please. Sign in, please.
And state your name.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Jacks. Good evening, City Mayor, councilmen and women, and city management. I'm here to speak on behalf of the residents of Heritage Woods subdivision in reference to the proposed C1 special exception. We, the Heritage Woods subdivision residents, have been in regular communication via emails, phone calls, and meetings since we were notified from Rick Quarles, city building manager, via letter. We were notified of the proposed C1 special exception on February 20th. I will speak only to the highlights from those meetings and discoveries this evening, as I know we have very limited time to do so, and because you already are aware of most of the issues and concerns. I'll offer a closing with our thoughts and suggestions regarding this matter. I will also be, scratch that, Aaron was able to make it tonight. I was going to be reading his part. He thought he had an emergency trip to California but was able to be here. It's our understanding that the C1 special exception is needed to provide the proposed developer, Jason Fry, with the ability to store RVs on a gravel parking lot that he would like to develop. It is also our understanding that some, including Rick Quarles, city building manager, are reading the existing language in the city ordinances to provide, under an existing C1 coding classification, the developer with the ability to store RVs in a building. However, we would like to suggest some very important reasons in addition to the denial of the C1 special exception that this be denied as well. We would also like to know the other special exception reasons for requesting the zoning to C1 special exception, such as changing the buffer requirements from 25 to 20 feet. Here are issues and concerns. Enterprise Drive, the proposed location for this new development, is already a problematic area, with many documented and current issues with multiple violations of city noise ordinances, inappropriate conduct and after business hours activity after dark, and continuing until 5 o'clock in the morning on many nights, especially weekends, creating additional noise and potentially an unsafe environment, while also negatively impacting the quality of life for our neighboring community, especially for our properties bordering a large residential community and subdivision. Increased patrols and allocation of additional police force has not resolved these issues, and our already understaffed police should be stationed at centrally located areas within the city to minimize response time for actual emergencies. So although improvements have been made, the issues still haven't been resolved. Captain John Lanham also noted in our April 3rd meeting that they're understaffed by at least 2 people. On April 3rd, Jason Fry, developer, discussed his plans for the 6 acres of land on Enterprise Drive and reason for the special C1 exception rezoning request. He said that he plans to build an RV storage unit and chain link fence to house up to 60 RVs. He stated that instead of providing a paved surface, which would be expected for a luxury facility, he will be installing a gravel parking lot. This facility will have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week access to RVs, and that he plans to begin construction within 2 months if approval is granted. Rick Quarles stated that the business must meet the city ordinance. Jason said that he will have security cameras installed. The meeting then entered into an in-depth discussion of the details in the existing city ordinance of a C1 classification business. There is no existing ordinance for a special C1 exception classification. The areas of concern regarding this business are many. However, most center around safety, noise, and aesthetics. I do not believe that vegetation alone will provide sufficient buffering for noise, aesthetics, and safety. And at this time, I would like to circulate some pictures that I took actually yesterday. And I'm sorry I only have 1 copy. But I think you'll see from those pictures, it's true that a picture paints 1,000 words. And I think when you see those pictures, I think you'll understand what we're talking about here of the existing problematic area. Here are areas of concern regarding this business proposal. The addition of a proposed C1 special exception to allow for the proposed RV storage business is in violation of existing City of Fort Oglethorpe ordinances. This proposed business should be located in an I-2 zone according to the existing city ordinances. Proposed development does not include any customer contracts dictating what is permitted and what is not permitted for storage, No landscaping plan for buffering for residents, does not provide any trash zones or dump out areas for waste, gray water, and trash. Conflict of land use proposed versus existing residential subdivision. Storage does not mix with residential uses, high traffic, people living in units. Design concerns, there's no 10-year plan. There are conceptual plans that do not meet buffer zone requirements. The buffer zone B is not adequate for this proposed C1 with exception zoning use. There's a conflict in property depth required to adequately meet the proposed use. Buffer parking space, 12 by 40 typically, drive aisle width setbacks. Security concerns, does not provide for on-site staff. Photometrics, lighting concern, would require substantial lighting height to illuminate property and would create negative impact to neighbors. Cameras, limitation of sight. Traffic concerns, no traffic study. The size of proposed vehicles to be introduced to already overburdened streets like Lakeview Drive and Cloud Springs Road. The current intersection of Lakeview and Enterprise Drive have no turn lanes left or right to accommodate maintaining traffic flow. Slow and required sizable spacing between cross traffic which do not exist here. There are environmental concerns. Hazardous materials, gas, propane, kerosene oils, flammable waste disposal, no dump out station to accommodate trash and waste, sewage and gray water. No wash station proposed to maintain a visually acceptable storage of RVs. We recommend an I2 zoning and not a C1. Item J is junkyards, one registered or one broken down vehicle away from the defining of a junkyard. Item D, special exceptions. To provide adequate information regarding his proposed development, as many critical components were not initially provided, such as a 5 or 10-year plan, landscape drawing or landscape procedure or visuals. Today, we still do not have these items to provide the necessary information to the neighboring residents to ensure positive impact on the community. Although we asked for this information to be provided in a meeting on April 18th. During that meeting, the developer failed to follow through with his commitment and only shared a very partial hand-drawn sketch of the perimeter of Enterprise Drive development, stating that he didn't have enough time to finish it. He had an architect who coincidentally is a tenant of his attend this meeting to discuss his proposal and answer questions. This architect's presence was done in favor to the developer as he will not be servicing this project. Here are the drawings and sketches, Appendix A through F, that Jason distributed in this meeting. I asked where he got them, and he said that Jenny Simpkins and Rick Corll supplied them to him, which is fine with us. It's just they weren't the plans that we expected to see for his business. Again, there's been no actual plans provided to the residents. He verbalized his intent to invest upwards of $2 million in the development, yet we have not seen a business plan. Residents expressed concern over the intended security measures that we requested to Jason Fry in our April 3rd meeting, a desire to have a fence enclosure in addition to the required buffer area. Jason stated his intent to generate some agreeable fence options for the April 18th meeting. However, this item was only an additional design detail which has been left out of inadequately designed proposal. Jason stated that he would only be complying with the minimum city ordinance for buffer area, which is vegetation only.
Ms. Jacks, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Closing and summary. I'll read fast. In closing, I'm Melissa Jacks, Aaron Haithcock, Ellen Boyd, the Heritage Woods residents who are in here this evening, along with approximately 100 signed petitions from our Heritage Woods residents, would like to ask the City Council to do the following. Deny the C1 special exception application. Deny the developer to proceed with the proposed RV storage business, which is in direct violation of existing city ordinances. This business should be located in an I2, minimum I1, or C1. Require the city management to require the existing Enterprise landowners whose property borders our Heritage Woods subdivision residents to immediately begin adding the required buffer areas per the existing city ordinances. begin amending or adding supplementation to the existing city ordinances to protect residential areas such as Heritage Woods.
That's enough. That's sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Stoltz,
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you for your time.
if I may, I think, Ms. Jacks, aren't you here representing the majority of the people in this room?
Yes, sir, I am.
I'm going to allow you to exceed,
Thank you,
if
sir.
it's okay with these people, that she is representing y'all.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. We've put a lot of time into this.
We could have each one of y'all come up here and take your 5 minutes, but I'm going to make this special exception.
Thank
Ms.
you,
Jacks,
sir.
if you would continue.
I will, I appreciate that. So the last statement, to begin amending, and it's my understanding you're already in the process of amending ordinances, is that right? Okay, great. Just a little bit of background on me. I'm a business teacher and a business owner, and I've worked in this field for 31 years, including working for 2 Fortune 50 companies. I'm surprised that a developer's application for rezoning would even be considered, as it's lacking in so many fundamental areas, but also because it's in direct violation to the city ordinances. We, the residents of Heritage Woods subdivision, love our homes, our community, our neighbors, and our location. And they're not only our homes, but they're our investments that we not only protect, but also expect our city, our county, and our police force to protect. We believe in the city of Fort Oglethorpe and Catoosa County, and we're asking you to do the right thing and support your residents, those who have elected you to office. I believe that together we can accomplish these objectives. We want to see the right kind of business growth into Catoosa County and in the city of Fort Oglethorpe. We want to encourage others to move into Catoosa County, attend our great schools. I'm a teacher at Heritage High School full-time, and although I do have side businesses, but that's my heart and soul. And continue to foster a community that makes us all proud and safe to live here. A few more things that happened that I want to take a few minutes to go over, and then I'm going to hand this off to Aaron Haythcock. After I put together my notes and thoughts, I started receiving emails and phone calls from other residents, and I was unaware of those many things that were going on. Here are signed petitions. These are 75, and I'll be sending you another 25. So we have approximately 100. Since Captain Lanham has explained to the Enterprise Drive startup businesses of the city ordinance that required shutdown, he also shared with us in our April 3rd meeting, he gave them the shutdown times for their businesses. He told them a specific time that they had to shut down operation of the business. So some of the residents have raised this question: how can Jason Fry's proposed RV business offer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week access to RVs? That's a conflict. And Jason shared with everyone in our April 3rd meeting that he was investing $2 million in the proposed RV development, but he didn't have enough money to cover the proper buffer or setback. So I was a little bit confused as to how that could be. He has yet to produce a business plan or even disclose a visual of his planned RV development, only copies of someone else's sketches. A former construction worker who also sent me a message said he couldn't see, and he worked in the same industry, the same type of development. He couldn't see where the $2 million would be going, and couldn't understand why he couldn't supply the necessary masonry type fence that we were requesting that would supply the sufficient buffering. Another suggestion that came in, and again, I'm voicing these suggestions that came in from our residents. I have a right to do that. One said perhaps it would be helpful if we got the EPA's input on this matter regarding suitable areas for waste, gray water, and trash. Additionally, we'll need to consult with the Colonial Pipeline regarding the close proximity of the flammable materials from Jason Fry's proposed RV business, like gas, propane, kerosene, oils, flammable waste. There also must be a proper investigation of power lines regarding the right-of-way to not only Jason Fry's proposed RV business, but also to Mr. Anderson's business. Rick Quarles shared with us in our April 18th meeting that Mr. Anderson is already moving forward with his construction of another building similar to the ones already on Enterprise Drive. He said that he's unaware of the business that will occupy this building, although the side of that's going to actually come into my back fence. It's very close proximity. It's close from here to Mayor. One side of the business will back up to my property, therefore this investigation must take place immediately. There must be a formal evaluation criteria established, i.e. the ordinances by the City of Fort Oglethorpe, to determine whether a business is not only credible, but also to ensure and enforce the ordinances. If a C1 business is developed, then that business must function as a C1 business, and not an I1 or an I2, as Jason Fry's RV business is defined. It's critical that this be established on the front end so that management of the business throughout the process can be easier to obtain, with insufficient numbers of city personnel to police this area. We were told that Rick Quarles is the only city employee to police this process, and his inspections occur only one time per year. These ordinances are critical to the management of these issues, and we certainly appreciate your time, city management, councilmen and women, for your commitment to updating and modifying them. They're very much needed. And with proper ordinances in place, we can avoid situations like this and have an environment that we're all happy with, that contributes back to a positive community. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of the rezoning of this particular parcel of property?
Write your name down and then state your name.
Thanks, sir.
Hello, my name is Jason Fry, and I'm proposing the RV storage on Enterprise Drive. Thank you guys for listening, and I know there's a lot of concerns. We've had quite a few meetings actually, trying to go over these and working with Rick and the residents, trying to come up with a solution. Right now it is in the beginning stages. It's my understanding, as this process goes, trying to get the special exception for the storage and the gravel lot temporarily as a building site to get with an engineer and have all those civil things figured out as far as dump sites, locations, plumbing, easement situations, and fully going ahead with the buffers as they're in the city code. I mean, all that we found in there was, I thought, very adequate, with a lot of trees and spacing, pretty close together. It will take some time, obviously, for that stuff to grow up and give that proper buffer, just like any new business. I've heard the concerns, and I am really trying to help put something in place that's, less invasive, it's not noisy. What's currently over there right now can be a mess, and what will keep continuing to be built, like the rental properties that are over there, unlike what I would have would be, I'll know these customers personally. I've been doing this for 11 years in Tennessee, so it's not a startup business. It's something I've been doing for quite some time now. My partner sold that property, and I live here in the city of Fort Oglethorpe, actually right next to industrial property. And that's another reason I've got pretty good experience of that this would be a very kind business to be backed up around a subdivision. And it's low traffic. They don't typically have 130 customers, and I'm thinking half of that will fit in this property. We had 5 to 7 trips a month. On a busy week, we may have 2 or 3 times a year, 8 to 10. And so the traffic concerns, it's very low traffic. The 24 hours, it's a 24-hour automated gate. Everyone has their own code, so we track who's coming, who's going, and I get notifications of that stuff. That is something that I can control and I will regulate, as well as the quality of these vehicles. These are not, $10,000 used, falling apart campers that a lot of people you'll see in these mini storages abandon stuff in them. I don't let that happen. I've never let that happen. The revenues and the one way I police that is, most of these, if you'll check them out, are $50 a month storage holes, extra space in the mini storage. I charge $150 a month currently. To address the asphalt and the gravel issues, that is just a temporarily, while the building site's in, as the property progresses, it would be paved or concreted. So I also would like to thank Nick, he's come up, and let him come up. He wants to say a few things, and he's got a better understanding of some of the layout. He's an architect, so he's come on board to help me make a better visual for the guys and for the residents. But as a citizen here, and I live here in Fort Oglethorpe, been here my whole life. I'd like to have a business in Fort Oglethorpe that is, something that's kind and will be, pleasing to the eye. Nice wrought iron fence, gated entrance, gated community with plenty of trees and buffering and stuff like that, and security. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of this rezoning? Please state your name at the podium, sir.
Hello, my name is Nick von Versovitz. It is true I am an architect. I am also a tenant of Mr. Fry's at another location. That is actually how we came to talk about this. Jason was telling me how he was proposing the relocation of his RV storage facility after his business partner sold the property and forced him to shut down. And he said, I want to move it back closer to home. I want to develop in my own town. I want to, bolster the whole environment, the growing environment of Fort Oglethorpe. And he was explaining to me how there was some concerns and opposition, and asked me to look over some of the specifics regarding the buffer requirements, what the 20-foot buffer depth is required in the ordinance, which has been pointed out is needing some tweaking because of the verbiage in it. But as it was written, I've met with Mr. Quarles and discussed what would be required, and worked through that with Jason to try and figure out how much space would be available on a lot that has some restrictions as far as the easement that cuts across it at a diagonal. I was brought into the latest meeting, which was last week, to hear some of the concerns of the opposition. And it sounded as though there were a lot of concerns with what is already there. And in looking at Jason's experience doing this at another location, as well as being one of his tenants and knowing the kind of ship he runs, he does not allow junk to pile up. And a lot of the clientele that he uses, or that rent from him, have really high-end motorhomes, motor coaches, and fifth wheels that are not run-down junkers. And I think that was one of the biggest concerns. But one of the other concerns was what is already happening on that street. There was concerns about the noise, and an empty RV is about as quiet as a cemetery. Like it's not like there's going to be people habitating these RVs throughout the night. Before Jason decided to invite me to come speak on his behalf, I was like, how many are you talking about, and what's the traffic? Is there a way to look at the traffic count when they come through? And he was like, yeah, a lot of the people that have RVs and travel throughout the summer are older, and they don't drive at night. So there's very low traffic at night. The way his system has previously been set up, it was with 24-hour access. But most people did not access it during the evening hours or even after dark. So I think as far as the noise concerns, I can't imagine anything less intrusive than essentially a vacant property. Similarly, the other units along that road are tenant-based. A lot of them are owned by a landlord, rented out, and there's been very little control over what has happened in those spaces. Someone could get evicted, and then another problem moves right in. Mr. Fry would be an owner-operator. Like he would own the property and manage the property. He keeps regular business hours where he is on site every day. As far as the security, which was brought up, he was very concerned. He expressed this to me, that there was some concern more about keeping his clients' assets safe. So as far as, and I know there was some concern about access to the back of these neighboring properties. People could just walk through, and that unfortunately is the case now. There's there are people doing burnouts, drag marks all up and down the street. People have access to the back of these properties with no fencing currently. And Mr. Fry is proposing to secure the back of the property for his customers' benefit, but it will also serve as a secondary benefit to the neighbors. He's agreed to do all of the required screening, even mentioning that he might tighten them up a little bit. The tree spacings is required in the Section B, a little more than that. The traffic is discussed on Lakeview Drive and the intersection. There's 5 to 7 RVs in and out a week, maybe up to 10 on the holiday weekends, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. Currently, there's the fire department, there's some delivery, materials delivery businesses along there, which would have trucks coming in and out. There's some contractors' offices or storage units there where they'll be getting there at 7 o'clock in the morning, loading trucks, heading out, coming back into the day, making noise. And I just think that this is a much less intrusive use of the space, given the hardships of the easement that cuts across it and the adjacency to residential. I think that this would be a pretty good fit for the area. One of the other concerns that came up was residential adjacency to a C1, and it was admitted by some of the opposition that they were unaware when they moved in that they were adjacent to a C1 property, and that they were unaware that these kind of things could be built right next door. And one of the things we discussed was that if this does not pass through the special exception, which is the topic at hand, if it does not pass, then more of the same could be built, and that sounds like what a lot of people have a major problem with on this street. And I think Jason is proposing a pretty great solution for the street, and would hopefully stop a lot of the issues that are currently happening there. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of the rezoning of this particular property? Yes, sir, come on. Sign in, state your name, and go to the podium, sir. Thanks, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Aaron Haithcock. I'm at 478 Franklin Circle in the Heritage Woods community. I'll be speaking today in opposition to the proposed C1 with special exceptions. I am a current resident and a licensed civil engineer. My role and oath as an engineer demands that I maintain a strict level of integrity and neutrality when performing engineering studies involving transportation, environment, feasibility, and structural assessments. I have taken this approach during my assessment of the proposed application for C1 with special exceptions being considered today. It is all too common that developers today do not perform the necessary due diligence, design, and engineering needed ahead of submitting applications for rezoning or in seeking special exceptions. This common methodology of apply first and design after approval, or if approved, however, does not allow the city or neighboring properties to adequately assess all the risks and variables that should be considered to appropriately determine the impacts of a development. Developers in this flawed method, or developers in order to gain the support for rezoning and gain approvals for special exceptions, must avoid this flawed method at all costs. The more prepared preliminary designs are to offer answers, address concerns, and mitigate risks of direct and indirect impacts, the more likely a development is to gain support and thus gain approval when zoning exceptions are requested. That is, unless a rezoning or special exception for a proposed development creates a greater risk than current requirements. I have found that all too often important details are never addressed or remain unknown until an event occurs associated with special exceptions. As the city of Fort Oglethorpe grows, so do the direct and indirect impacts developments of all types have on neighboring properties. Therefore, it is not unreasonable for the city or for cities to increase the burden of preliminary work regarding engineering designs and studies to mitigate the impacts that construction, post-construction, and business operations might pose prior to a rezoning or special exception application submittal. Current requirements for a C1 business includes, but are not limited to, the following. One, that storage must be within a completely enclosed building. And two, that no single building shall occupy more than 4,000 square feet of building area. It's found in Appendix A, Section 16.2. Also, per Article 4 of Section 410, buffer areas and screening requirements are laid out. They state that the use of buffer areas and screening reduces potential incompatibility between or among different uses of land in proximity to each other. Where the Commission determines what a proposed use of land or the granting of a variance from the requirements of this ordinance would have an unfavorable impact on adjoining uses, or the granting of a permit for such use or variance, a permanent buffer area or screening shall be established. Finally, per Section 26.6 for the screening requirements matrix, for a development of a C1 class property adjoining an R2 property, a Type B screening is mandated. This Type B screening, however, would immediately prove itself inadequate given the additional impacts that would be generated by allowing the special exceptions that have been applied for in this proposed development. This ordinance does not require a C1 with special exceptions to mitigate the additional impacts to a neighboring property by increasing the screening requirement to a recommended Type A screening. It is my professional opinion that the C1 special exceptions applied for would drastically increase the negative impacts posed on the adjacent residentially zoned community of Heritage Woods if approved. Currently, the city of Fort Oglethorpe has twice the number of storage facilities operating within a 2-mile radius of Heritage Woods subdivision. This is in comparison to the cities of Ringgold, East Brainerd, Ooltewah, East Ridge, downtown Chattanooga, Hickson, Red Bank, Signal Mountain, and Dalton, Georgia. That's twice as many storage facilities. Our community's excessive storage businesses are becoming the new problem, similar to the overdevelopment of apartment complexes that plagued the city of Fort Oglethorpe in 2004 and required city action. No comprehensive plans or studies have been performed or provided to the city nor to the neighboring community detailing any considerations for or mitigation against the negative impacts that this proposed development, with special exceptions, would pose on adjacent residential properties if approved. The impacts that were raised during previous meetings generally fit under the following 3 categories: aesthetics, environment, and crime and security. Under the category of aesthetics, the proposed development is verbally advertised as a luxury RV storage facility, and special exceptions applied for would provide for the development of an outdoor, uncovered, gravel parking storage lot, with the potential for adding business storage at later dates. This description flies in direct conflict of what luxury RV storage facilities provide and what luxury clientele demand. There are no guarantees that any buildings would ever be erected. Maintaining the existing requirements for C1 zoning without special exceptions would ensure that proper aesthetics remain consistent with adjacent properties that are zoned for residential uses by requiring and limiting the storage to an enclosed building. RV or luxury RVs owners typically provide for their own storage on their personal properties. Those that choose to store off-site look for paved surfaces that offer clean, dust-free, and rock-free surfaces to drive and park on. Luxury RV owners want their properties kept enclosed and away from the elements. Luxury RV owners want easy access to major highways and interstates. This parcel and proposed development does not offer any of these amenities. The risk of lowering property values and tax-based revenues for neighboring homes by this proposed development is real because of the special exceptions that this application implies. This special exception application is one unregistered, one broken down vehicle away from permitting a junkyard in the backyards of the residents of this subdivision. Limiting this parcel to the existing C1 zoning requirements would eliminate the risk of potential abandoned, broken down, or otherwise unsightly vehicles that the proposed external storage facility actually promotes. Maintaining the existing C1 zoning codes will provide proper limitations for the number of potential vehicles stored and maintained on site, and thus protect the aesthetically pleasing environment that the codes demand and that currently exists in Heritage Woods community. Secondly, environmental concerns have been raised regarding the risk of this rezoning for special exceptions application. Gravel is a pervious surface that offers direct access to the soil and the groundwater table. It also introduces dust plumes. It also introduces dust plumes into the air with every passing vehicle. As with all pervious driving and parking surfaces, this development, if approved, would expose the soil, groundwater, and tributaries to undue risk by the very vehicles traversing and parked upon it. There has been nothing provided that would mitigate the risks of pollution by leaking spilled oil, gasoline, propane, gray water, an additional number of hazardous chemicals and sewage stored within every RV. RVs returning from travel bring back large quantities of trash that could be left hidden in aisles or underneath exposed trailers, inviting rodent infestation and disrupting the balance of the natural environment that is protected under the current C1 requirements. Recent studies have drawn attention to an additional environmental concern unaddressed by current environmental laws. RVs travel throughout the country and inevitably pick up hitchhiking vegetation, insects, and yes, even animals not native to our area. The risk of exposure to our local environment without proper governance and mitigation for invasive foreign and non-native elements brought back by travelers generate a substantial risk to local habitat and property. Lastly, crime and security is another variable that's very important to the city of Fort Oglethorpe. The residents here seem to share this concern. The proposed development offers no on-site employment to monitor activities during or after business hours.
Just a second, sir. Mayor, you want to allow 10 minutes, is that?
I'll give him one more minute.
Okay. All right, let's see. The proposed development offers no on-site employment, thus increasing the demand for patrols and response by already understaffed Fort Oglethorpe Police Department. Also, concerns for photometric demands have been considered. The lighting system required for uncovered storage would inundate the neighboring residential properties even with buffers and screening. The current requirements of C1 zoning would guarantee proper shielding by a building and Type B screening and would eliminate additional security lights illuminating residential backyards and windows because nothing would be stored outdoors. Next, there is a definite recommendation for security cameras, and security cameras have been proposed as part of the development. While cameras offer a net benefit for crime prevention and evidence collection, a camera's line of sight on an outdoor storage facility would prove minimal and be limited due to the size of RVs and the layout of large parking lot spaces. Current Zoning of C1 requirements would reduce exposure to criminal activity by eliminating the accessibility of items stored outdoors. In closing, currently, no business properties on Enterprise Drive have been allowed special exceptions. The properties on Enterprise Drive are of similar land use and involve storage buildings that are not allowed uncovered storage. This would be open up a can of worms by setting a new precedence for uncovered storage along Enterprise Drive. It is my professional conclusion that this parcel should remain C1 zone property and that no special exceptions for this property be granted. No evidence has been provided that satisfies or mitigates any of the aforementioned risks and thus does not warrant consideration for special exceptions that have been applied for.
Would anyone else like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of this rezone? Mayor, it doesn't appear that anyone else would like to speak in opposition of or in favor of this zone.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Item number 4 under public hearing is zoning for ordinance number 2019-12. Mr. Stokes.
Ordinance 2019-12, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof that the following property owned by Bernard H. Brown and known as map 0019A002, a portion thereof, 540 Highway 41, is hereby rezoned to a C1 special exception Y zone. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to the rezoning of this particular portion of property to a C1 special exception Y zone?
Mayor, council members, my name is Bernard Brown, and I'm representing my dad and uncle in this rezoning. We've got a piece of property on Highway 41. It's we've had the property for 40 years. It's we just recently sold a portion of the front off 41 to the Food City, which they've successfully opened up, and business is good. We've got the remainder of the property has been a dirt pit for the past 30 years, and we've hauled hundreds of thousands of yards of dirt off the property over the last 30 years, and we're now in the transformation process to take it from a dirt pit to make it something usable and a nice piece of property for the city of Fort Oglethorpe. I've got a couple pictures here. If you don't mind me passing these out. There's pictures on the back of a townhome project that we did catty corner to this property. If you look on the picture, the property labeled Marathon Realty, that's where the Food City is. This property would back up to it. It sits up on a plateau above the Food City. Got a nice green space between it and the Food City development. Currently, we're proposing to have 6 acres, which will be phase 1 of the development. We're currently proposing to have it rezoned from C1 to C1 special exception, which would require a 10-foot front setback, 20-foot rear setback, 0 side if the buildings are connected, otherwise a 10-foot separation between buildings, a road with 24-foot back of curb to back of curb, a 4-foot sidewalk on at least one side of all public roads. We've got a small detail down on the left corner that would be kind of a cross-section of the development. I've got a larger drawing if anybody would like to see it. But anyway,
Is these, you said townhomes?
Townhomes, yes, sir.
Homes, not apartments?
No, not apartments, townhomes. We did a development catty corner to this project called Village at Frawley Lake, which consists of about 85 townhomes. And those townhomes sold for, these homes should sell for the low 200s to the upper 200s. They'll be individually owned. If they're connected, the property line will be, through the unit or through the sidewall of the unit. It'll have a firewall between the units. And then some of the units will be probably individual due to the terrain. But once we get up top, there'll be several of the units that'll be connected.
Okay.
The entrance to the property comes off a new road that Fort Oglethorpe installed, which is called Brownstone Drive. And there's a traffic light that has just been put in place down at Sanctuary Road. So the traffic flow would come up Sanctuary Road at the traffic light, or they could enter from Scruggs Road, come in the new road, and then turn up the hill going to the development.
Every one of these units has a 2-car garage. Is that correct?
Everyone will have a 2-car garage, yeah. Any further questions?
That's good, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of this rezoning to a special exception Y zone? Mr. Mayor, it doesn't appear like there is any opposition or in favor of this zoning. And you can declare that public hearing closed.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 5 under the public hearings is an annexation for ordinance number 2019-13. Mr. Stoltz.
2019-13 annexation be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof that the following property owned by Emerson Russell and known as map 0010D00100A Max Smith Road is annexed into the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Is there anyone here who would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of this annexation?
My name's Emerson Russell, and got this property over on Mac Smith, and currently it's in the county, and we'd like to bring it into the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Any questions?
Good.
Good.
Short, sweet, point.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of the annexation of this property from Mac Smith Road? Mr. Mayor, it does not appear that anyone else is present to speak in opposition.
I think we got one coming, sir.
Oh, do I? I'm sorry. Didn't see.
No.
State your name again, please.
Hello, Jason Fry again, and I would be in favor of that annexation. I have the property across the street, and I'd like to see the city move further up that road and get a little more money and stuff going on in that corridor connecting into Tennessee. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition of the annexation of Mr. Russell's property over on Mac Smith Road? 14?
Now we're going to close that one.
Yes, sir, we close that.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Item number 6 under the public hearing is for zoning, ordinance number 2019-14. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-14, rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof, the following property owned by Emerson Russell and known as map 0010D00100A Mac Smith Road is hereby rezoned to an I-1 zoning. This public hearing, anyone would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of the changing the rezoning to I-1?
Again, my name's Emerson Russell, and got some people that are interested in this property, and they need this zoning to be able to conduct their business. As to what the business is, I can't truthfully tell you because I'm dealing with a realtor, and at this point in time, it's I guess top priority. They don't want to tell anybody, but it's light manufacturing. Any other questions? Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak either in opposition of or in favor of the rezone? Mr. Mayor, it doesn't appear like anyone else is present, and you can close that public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. That concludes the public hearings that was on the agenda for tonight. At this time, we will call the regularly scheduled council meeting to order. Mr. Childs, if you would, please do the invocation. Ms. Stenick, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Let us pray. Your Heavenly Father, thank you for your love, forgiveness, and your just graciousness. Help us to make the right decisions for this great city, county, and the United States. Be with each and every one of us. Thank you for the involvement of our community. Just help us to make the right decisions. Forgive us when we fail you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes of the previous council meeting. If members of council have had an opportunity to review these, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item on the agenda, communications from the mayor. I do not have anything tonight since we have had quite a lengthy public hearing here, other than to say welcome to everyone here and like to see you here every other Monday. Next item on the agenda is zoning matters. We have none. Next item on the agenda is ordinances. Item number 1 under ordinances, third and final reading of ordinance number 2019-09. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-09, annexation, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof, section 1, that the following property owned by James Howard Walthour and known as map 0013D050 portion and 0013D051897 Dryer Bridge Road is annexed into the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Said property is particularly described as Exhibit A attached to a deed hereto, Section 2. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, 25th day of March 2019. Second reading, 8th day of April 2019. This is the third reading, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. I have a motion to approve. Second call for a motion to approve. Ordinance number 2019-09 fails for lack of a motion. Item number 2, under ordinances, third and final reading, ordinance number 2019-10. Mr. Stoltz.
Rezoning, the annexation failed, Mayor, so the rezoning would basically
fail too,
Yes.
I would assume.
Yes, we can't rezone.
So due to ordinance number 2019-09 not passing, ordinance number 2019-10 will not be considered. Item number 3 under ordinances, third and final reading, ordinance number 2019-11. Mr. Stoltz.
Rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, and it is hereby ordained by authority thereof, section 1, that the following property owned by Better Built Homes and known as map 000200020 Enterprise Drive is hereby rezoned to a C1 special exception zoning. Said property is particularly described in the deed attached as Exhibit A, Tier 2. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, 25th day of March 2019. Second reading, 8th day of April 2019. Third reading tonight. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Do I have a motion to approve? Second call for a motion to approve. Ordinance number 2019-11 fails for lack of a motion. Item number 4. Item number 4 under ordinances, ordinance number 2019-12. Mr. Stoltz.
2019-12 rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Port Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Bernard H. Brown and known as map 0019A002, a portion thereof, 540 Highway 41, is hereby rezoned to a C1 special exception Y zoning. Said property is particularly described in the deed attached to Exhibit A to this ordinance. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, 25th day of March 2019. Second reading, 8th day of April 2019. Third reading tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir. I failed to ask Mr. Brown a question in regard to the variance. Why are we changing the variance, sir, from 35 to 25?
The question was again, the front variance?
Yes, from 35 to 25, that 10 feet. Why was
Well,
that necessary?
there's a, and I'm going to give you a bigger picture of the detail, and it'll kind of explain.
with a lot of townhomes,
if we have an area where I have to do a rear entry, a rear drive into the back of the house, then I can slide the townhome up closer to the front of the street to allow room for a rear entry into the back of the townhome.
So the townhomes will have a bigger backyard.
They would have a bigger, well, not to be a backyard, but you see a lot of homes, downtown where they slide the homes up close to the curb and they enter in the back. So it wouldn't necessarily be a backyard. They would kind of live on the street, and then the townhome would be, the backyard would be more or less driveway and garage.
Give them a bigger front yard.
Give them a bigger front, yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
information.
Any other discussion? Ms. James?
Yes.
Ms. Stinnett?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 5, third and final reading of ordinance number 2019-13.
Sergeant. Ordinance number 2019-13, annexation, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof, section 1, that the following property owned by Emerson Russell and known as map 0010D00100A, Max Smith Road, is annexed into the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Said property is particularly described as a deed attached as Exhibit A. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, 25th day of March. Second reading, 8th day of April, 2019. Third reading tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion, sir.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Ms. Stinnett?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 6, under ordinances, third and final reading of ordinance number 2019-14. Mr. Stoltz.
2019-14 rezoning, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Emerson Russell and known as map 0010D00100A, Max Smith Road, is hereby rezoned to an I-1 zoning. Said property is particularly described in the deed attached as Exhibit A. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, 25th day of March, 2019. Second reading, 8th day of April, 2019. Third reading tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second reading.
Third reading.
Third.
Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Childs?
Yes.
Mr. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Stinnett?
Yes.
Ms. James?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 7, under ordinances, second reading, ordinance number 2019-15. Mr. Stoltz.
Ordinance number 2019-15, zoning variance, be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and is hereby ordained by authority thereof. Section 1, that the following property owned by Bullock Golden and known as map 0003A102 401 Battlefield Parkway is hereby given a zoning variance. Said property is particularly described in a deed attached as Exhibit A. If any part of this ordinance shall be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, such invalidity or unconstitutionality shall not affect or impair other parts of this ordinance unless it clearly appears that such other parts are wholly and necessarily dependent upon the part held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Section 3, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after its adoption by the mayor and council. First reading, 8th day of April, 2019. Second reading tonight, 26th day of April.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Next item on the agenda is resolutions. We have none. Next item is unfinished business. We have none. Next item is reading of city clerk of any communications. We have none. Next item on the agenda is new business. Item number 1, under new business, proposed approval of an alcohol beverage license for My Pie, location at 3809 Battlefield Parkway. Ms. Simpkins.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is a request by, it's actually Your Pie, to serve alcoholic beverages, beer and wine at their new location in the Publix Shopping Center. As you all know, you established an alcoholic beverage commission through City Code. 5 members are appointed by council with the power to grant and revoke licenses pertaining to the control of alcoholic beverages. Currently, the commission seats are unfilled, so we've been bringing the request for alcoholic beverage licenses directly to you. City staff has reviewed the application for beer and wine sales remitted by Your Pie, and we recommend approval of the license pending positive results from the fingerprint analysis.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item number 2 under new business, proposed approval of task order 2019-03, designed for drainage improvements at Stewart and General Johnson and at Cindy, Circle, and Barrett. Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is for a request for a change order from our existing contract we have with CTI on another storm drain location located on Alomar Street. This would be to add these 2 locations that you named out, have some stormwater issues there, and recommending approval of this. This would be coming from the splashed item, and the price on this change order is $5,800.
Thank you, Mr. Long. I have a motion to approve.
Motion, sir.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, glad to get that done, because the last thing on Cindy Circle was me out there with a shovel trying to fix it for the residents. So I'm excited about getting this done, and I will share it with the neighborhood residents. Thank you, Mr. Long.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to see that. No, I'm just kidding.
There's photographs. The residents took pictures of me out there with the shovel in the rain getting old. So you can see it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 3 under new business, proposed approval to award playground construction contract. Mr. Long.
Yes, recommending to approve contract. This will be for renovation of Gilbert Stevenson City Park Playground. This will be through game time. The current playground was built between 95 and 97, and it's due to the high use of that park. It has aged out and been repaired over and over, and just time to renovate it. And this would happen this fall, through this fall and winter, after the summer heavy season would go. And it is through U.S. Communities government has a bid process, and so this would be through the bid process that they have did. The amount for the equipment is $581,248.68, and this would come out of General Fund 16123-542501 for the amount to game time. And you have a picture of the proposed site we worked with, and would like to thank, had a group there worked on this. Would like to thank them for their input on this. It's some parents that has children that uses the park quite a bit.
Thank you, Mr. Long. I have a motion to approve.
Motion, sir.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Long, thank you for making sure that this park is ADA certified.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 4, under new business, proposed approval to award dog park enclosure. Ms. Simpkins.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, I'd like to recognize one of our Bark City Committee members, David Betty. Thank you for joining us tonight, David. The Bark City Committee formed in 2018 with the objective of building a dog park in our city. The committee has held 6 fundraisers and accepted donations totaling $137,733.35. Additionally, City Council provided a budget of $15,000 for the establishment of a dog park. The Bark City Committee worked with Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe High School on the design of the dog park enclosure. The selected design includes a double gate entry and separate sections for large and small dogs to play safely off of the leash. The entryway on the selected design includes wrought iron detail with brick columns, which will be added as a phase 2 of the dog park enclosure project. The first phase is for 1,300 linear feet of 5-foot tall black vinyl coated chain link fence to enclose the area for the park. The total cost is $16,350.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 5, under new business, proposed approval to approve naming of Brownstone Drive. Mr. Long.
Yes, you heard it before, but this will make the official naming of it if y'all accept it, where your approval of townhomes are. This is the road that city built going from Scruggs Road over into the Food City complex and tying in with South Sanctuary Road. And recommendation from the staff is to name it Brownstone Drive.
Thank you,
Zero
Mr. Long.
cost.
They have a motion to approve.
Make a motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 6, under new business, proposed approval to use polo fields for Labor Day in the street. Ms. Simpkins.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to recognize Ryan Ralston with Liberty Baptist Church, as he's the lead organizer for this year's event. And organizers this year aim to make the formerly Labor Day at the Post event bigger and better than ever before. And we've actually heard from Mr. Ralston that we're going to have over 50 vendors, a stage featuring live music, sports activities, a car show, children's activities, and food. The event will take place on Monday, September 2nd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the section of Lafayette Road between Onscore Street and Harker Road. Those 2 intersections would remain open. Approval of this business item allows event organizers to use the polo fields for parking and other activities on September 2nd, as well as the right to close a portion of Lafayette Road for the event.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Have we spoken with the businesses along that route that will experience the street being closed that day?
Yes, absolutely, and Ryan is here to speak in a few moments under citizen comments, so he can fill you in on those details as well.
Good deal.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 7, under new business, proposed approval of task order number 2019-01 for direct connection drive sewer extension. Mr. Parker.
Mr. Mayor, this is a request to actually extend our existing Mac Smith Road system, interceptor system, through the direct connection drive area to take us right up to the Tennessee line where there are some undeveloped parcels. We have had some inquiries before. WWTA will not allow anybody to tie onto their system in East Ridge. So we are requesting approval for task order 2019-01, amount $54,800 to This is just for the engineering design. This will be for all the engineering services, the construction services, the RPR, all of our engineering services on this project.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item number 8, under new business, proposed approval of task order number 2019-07 for water main on Lafette Road. Mr. Parker.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, with the upcoming Lafette Road Streetscape project supposed to be let for bid in October, we are proposing to move forward before that project with upgrade of the 12-inch water main along Lafette Road, which has been here since the days of the post. Best guess is it's somewhere near a century old. And we have had some failures in it before, and they are pretty rough when it comes apart. We're proposing to start this on Oglethorpe Road at Diane Lane and carry it to Harker, just past where the streetscape is on the end. Pretty much in the exact same location where it is existing, so we shouldn't have to acquire any easements or any of these things. In addition to that, there are some sewer lines that have been around since the post, probably 700 or 800 feet of line that we're going to address at the same time we do this water line. So that's the request. This is task order 2019-07. The amount is $53,200. And again, it is also for the full spectrum of engineering, the design, the permitting, the construction services, RPR. So.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Finally, they're gonna start working on it.
Time to
In
seize
our
the day.
lifetime.
It's a great time to do it, Phil. We're going to cover up what you tear up anyway.
Yeah.
Tear it up and get it fixed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item on the agenda, City Manager's Report. Ms. Simpkins.
Mayor, I just wanted to mention that Wes Harden has completed the mural depicting our military history and social center in Fort Oglethorpe on the side and front walls of the restroom building at Gilbert Stevenson Park, and it looks fantastic. So we just encourage everybody to go take a look and enjoy that. And finally, there's a Clean Catoosa event on Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The City of Fort Oglethorpe has partnered with the City of Ringgold and Catoosa County and LIFT, a nonprofit organization in our community, to hold this event.
Clean it up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Simpkins. The next item on the agenda is City Council comments. Mr. Childs.
Mr. Mayor, have no comments tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Childs. Mr. Crawford.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Rogers.
I'll just say thank you all for coming out. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Ms. James.
I'll ditto what Derek said. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Ms. James. Ms. Stennett.
Yes, sir. First, I'd like to thank everyone in the city and citizens who sent prayers, messages on Facebook, and attended my mother's funeral Wednesday. It was very, very kind outpouring as our family is hurting, but we rest assured that my mother is in a far better place. And she's with my father, so those of you who knew my father can only imagine the two of them together and the time they're having now in heaven. So thank you all very, very much for that. I want to remind everyone about the benefit on May the 18th, when we will hear George Patton Waters, who is the grandson of General George S. Patton, will actually be here in the city of Fort Oglethorpe, the grandson of General Patton, here. The reception will begin at 6 p.m. at the museum. Of course, that's the 6th Calvary Museum on Barnhart Circle, with a dinner to be held at St. Gerard Catholic Church at 7:30 p.m. Individual tickets are $50 per person for dinner only, $75 for the dinner and reception. And of course, you can check with Christine McKeever at the 6th Cavalry Museum and get your ticket, hopefully today. I understand there's only 2 or 3 tables left, last time I checked. I want to remind you guys that vintage baseball is coming back. So bring your chairs, bring your families for another family fun-oriented event here in Fort Oglethorpe. April 27th will be the next game, beginning at 11 o'clock in the morning. Veteran and Citizen Council. I'd like to invite everyone for the Veteran and Citizen Council on the first Thursday of each month, right here in the room where you sit now. You don't have to be a veteran, but you just have to come and support Honor Park, a tribute to those who serve, which is located off of Shelby Street. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go through that park, please take the opportunity to do so. I think you will be very, very impressed. Mayor, council, again, thank you. And as my mother said, you don't love people because of what they do. You love them in spite of what they do.
Thank you, Ms. Stinnett.
Love them all. Thank
Next item on the agenda, citizens petitions. Mr. Ralston.
I'm excited to be here with y'all tonight, and I want to pass out these maps of what we are looking at with Labor Day in the streets, formerly known as Labor Day at the Post. As you will see, this does involve the streets, hence the name change there. And I would like to say thank you to Ms. Chris McKeever for the years of planning this event and all that she has done, so thank you to her. She approached us back in, I guess it was about August of last year, and mentioned wanting to turn the event over to Liberty, where our pastor here at Liberty Fort O. And what we really have a heart to do is to see our little area there on the corner of Harper and Lafayette be revitalized, and we're really excited about all the things that are going to be happening there on that street with the new renovations to the street. And this event would also allow a great opportunity to bring some new energy and life back into an area that really needs that. The history of the event is that it's kind of been tucked away back on the post area there in the field, and as you know, it's an area that not a lot of people go to unless they're going into the battlefield. And what we're wanting to do with the event is to bring the event out so where other people can see it while still utilizing the area there around it, as well as providing more advertising. I believe that this event could literally be an event that thousands of people come to every single year. I think it could be an event that not only thousands of people come to, but it could be something that helps our tourism here in the area. It helps our economy here in the area, as people could come in and say, hey, I'm going to Labor Day in the streets next year, and they put it on their calendar, they make a plan out of it. Kids now don't want to go away for vacation, they want to stay home because something's going to be so fun for them here in the city of Fort O. And the ways that we really see that happening is through vendor involvement, through city involvement, as well as through making the event family-centered. And obviously that's important for me as a pastor to do that, but we're doing some entertainment that's going to bring out more families. We believe if you can get a young child to come out to an event, you get their mom, their dad, their brothers, their sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody alike to come out to the event. So we're doing some things like the first ever annual Little Miss Labor Day pageant, where we're going to hold that inside of our location. So if you're a grandparent and you have a young child that you would like to see dress up and you go, oh, they look cute, then you can bring them to that event, and everybody gets a trophy, everybody walks away happy, no little girls crying, which is always a good thing. As you see there on your map, we are moving the event to Lafayette Road because of a couple of things. Number one, if it rains, being in the street provides a good secure area for people to set up tents. And the other thing is it allows a good way not to have to worry about the grass being mowed, which can take some pressure off of people mowing and doing other work like that. The other benefit is it's a whole lot of literally people are going to be able to see the event now. They're going to be able to see the event from their home. They're going to be driving through there maybe and seeing the event there. I talked with Ms. Jenny about doing some advertising with a sign on Lafayette Road, which would be a huge blessing to be able to do that, to advertise the event, to hang a banner across the road so that many people see that. And I just know, personally, I live about a minute and a half from there, and I would love to have something in my neighborhood when people got a buzz about. They're excited about something that's coming to the area. So that would be why we're moving out into the street. And as you see, it goes right down Lafayette Road. There'd be a car show there. Right now we have around 55 vendors already signed up for the event. One of the great things about doing the event this way that's gotten vendors really excited is access to power off of power poles. And I've talked with Jeff and several other people about doing just that. We've met with businesses. We've met with, of course, Jenny and Jeff and policemen, firemen, and that's where this map comes from, is from those meetings. This is not something we just said, hey, this would be great. There's been a lot of planning and a lot of meetings that have led up into the map that you see there in front of you. As well as we have probably around 100 cars that would like to come out to the event. So there's a lot of things that are leading up to it that we're really excited about. I had a meeting with Father Wise at St. Gerard last week, and he's really on board. He's excited about this. He's excited about doing some things there in his fellowship hall, doing some things in his parking lot, and him and I are going to play cornhole against some people. So bring it. All right. So we're excited about getting together and partnering. First Presbyterian is also excited about this. I have not yet been able to get a call back from Church of Christ. So if you need to go to church at the Church of Christ, tell your pastor to give me a call. All right. So I want to get with him as well and get some good partnerships. A lot of people in the city have actually given us sponsorships on several things already. We did not have, I'm just going to say this, we did not have a budget for this. And literally people have been so excited about moving the event, doing the event this way, that people are coming on saying, I want to sponsor this. I want to be a part of this. I want to give some money to make this event possible. So some things right now that we would really need is the city support. Obviously, I appreciate you guys and ladies taking that vote just a moment ago. Really excited about that. This week, we have the sign that has been sponsored. We're going to be making that sign soon. And then the other thing that we need is just some more encouragement to advertise and put out some signage, get some people out in front of this thing running, advertising what we're doing. The great thing is some of our vendors are actually so excited, they're willing to go to other events and advertise for our event. And I think that says a lot about our city, that people want to be involved in what we have going on here. So that is essentially all that I have. Do y'all have any questions? Anything tonight that you'd like to ask?
Is this parking, that's the green area over by the ball fields, but what about the other areas along the way? Let's say Park Place Restaurant and some of the other areas. Is that going to be an issue, or are we reaching out to them?
We have talked with Jack and talked with some others. In fact, that is why the event has actually been pushed down, is because of Save-A-Lot. They have a concern with people coming in needing to buy groceries on Memorial or on Labor Day, and that is why we've actually pushed the event forward. We also talked with the city police about putting a sign up that says open to businesses. Businesses are still opening, but this will be a closed road for through traffic.
Now, who assumes the liability if someone gets hurt?
Liberty does. We do. Yes, ma'am. And you see there on your map, there's a white section there that allows for emergency parking, emergency vehicles, and then we have access, obviously, from Harker, and then we have access from the back side of the Roman Catholic Church as well.
So this thing starts at the old McDonald's?
Just a little past that, towards the battlefield. The picture that you have there, the road that's closed.
Is it backward?
At the very top.
Where's
it
this?
is upside down. That's the way my map printed that.
Okay.
I promise you, though, everything else is right.
Well, she brought it up. You did talk to the people that own.
Yes, sir.
The businesses. Okay, sir.
No, that's
I did.
that would get backwards.
Good.
Looks good.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Excited
Thank you all so much. We're excited about doing some good energy in that area and bringing some more energy to the corridor. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Tough tractor pull is going to be in Jack's parking lot.
Next item on the agenda is executive session. We do not have anything for executive session tonight. The last item on the agenda is adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.